We have seen the jobs report this morning, and it is another kick in the gut to middle-class families. It's consistent with what I've heard as I've gone across the country and met with families in their homes, in cafes and restaurants, and in break rooms. American families are struggling. There's a lot of misery in America today. And these numbers understate what people are feeling and the amount of pain which is occurring in middle-class America. Not only is the 8.2% number unacceptably high, and one that's been in place now for over 41 months, but in addition, if you look at the broader analysis of people who are out of work or have dropped out of the workforce or that are underemployed in part-time jobs needing full-time work, it's almost 15% of the American public. And then there are those that are working, but are working in jobs well beneath their skill level, are working in multiple part-time jobs, kids that are coming out of college not being able to find work, veterans coming home not being able to do anything but stand on an unemployment line. These are very difficult times for the American people. There are other numbers that are troubling. The manufacturing reports of the last several weeks indicate that manufacturing is not growing either domestically or in our exports as we would have expected at this stage. And of course, that's a long-term trend that's very disturbing and troubling. The president's policies have clearly not been successful in reigniting this economy, in putting people back to work, in opening up manufacturing plants across the country. The heartland industries where manufacturing occurs are struggling by virtue of policies on the part of the president that have not worked. The highest corporate tax rates in the world do not create jobs. Highest regulatory burdens in our nation's history, those do not create jobs. Trade policies that have not opened up new markets for American goods, particularly in Latin America, those don't create new jobs. Failing to effectively crack down on China for cheating and stealing American jobs, that has not helped. The president's policies have not gotten America working again, and the president's going to have to stand up and take responsibility for it. I know he's been planning on going across the country and celebrating what he calls forward. Well, forward doesn't look a lot like forward to the millions and millions of families that are struggling today in this great country. It doesn't have to be this way. The president doesn't have a plan, hasn't proposed any new ideas to get the economy going, just the same old ideas of the past that have failed. I have a plan. My plan calls for action that will get America working again and create good jobs, both near-term and long-term. It includes finally taking advantage of our energy resources, building the Keystone Pipeline, making sure we create energy jobs and we convince manufacturers that energy will be available and low cost in America. It means opening up new markets for American trade, particularly in Latin America, where the opportunities are extraordinary. It means cracking down on China when they cheat, making sure they don't steal our jobs unfairly. It means bringing our tax rates down, our marginal tax rates down, and cutting out the exemptions and deductions and loopholes that are unfair in many cases. In other cases, we're going to limit those deductions and exemptions so that we maintain our revenue through growth and through limiting of these special deals, but bring our tax rates down so they're competitive and attractive for jobs to come back to America. It means having a government that sees its role as encouraging enterprise rather than crushing it with a burden of new and unnecessary regulation and with outmoded regulations that haven't been cleaned up in years and years. And finally, it means having a health care plan that focuses on bringing down the cost of health care for American families, not just adding new expenses and new taxes to the American people. This is a time for America to choose whether they want more of the same, whether unemployment above 8% month after month after month is satisfactory or not. It doesn't have to be this way. America can do better. And this kick in the gut has got to end. Happy to take a couple of questions.
Governor, what do you say to critics who say you're not being specific enough and your campaign's playing it too safe and that they want to hear some more specific policy from you?
I don't say much to critics. I put out 59 steps for how I'd get the economy going, and I don't think I've seen any from the president that show what he's planning on doing. I've laid out my 59 steps, and take a look at them. I think you'll find them very specific. Again, going through them one by one, taking advantage of our energy resources, opening up federal lands for drilling, doubling the number of permits and licenses to take advantage of oil, natural gas, coal, stopping these extraordinary regulations in energy that are making those in the manufacturing sector fear they can't rely on low-cost American energy. Number two, opening up new markets in Latin America. The president hasn't done that. In 3.5 years, no new trade agreements. At the same time, cracking down seriously on China, not just at the edges, but finally going after them aggressively and saying, look, guys, you just can't continue to steal our jobs. How do you go across Pennsylvania and Ohio and not talk about being serious about creating jobs through manufacturing policies that make America more attractive for investment and growth? Tax policies. I want to bring down the corporate tax rate from 35 to 25 and the individual marginal tax rate 20% across the board. Those kinds of specifics I'd like to see coming from the president.
Governor Romney, President Obama said in an interview with the newspaper in Ohio that you were effectively abandoning the principle in the form of the individual mandate that you supported in Massachusetts when you were governor because of criticism from the right, from Rush Limbaugh, from other conservative voices in the Republican Party. What would you say to that?
You know, I've spoken about health care from the day we passed it in Massachusetts, and people said, is this something that you'd apply at the federal level? And I said no. Said the right course for the federal government is to allow states to create their own plans. And by the way, the proof is that I was right, because Obamacare is costing jobs in America. When 3/4 of small businesses say that they're less likely to hire people because of Obamacare, you know the president has put his liberal agenda, Obamacare, ahead of the interest of creating jobs. And for me, job one for the president has to be creating good jobs for middle-income Americans. And that's what I'm going to do.
Governor, your staff has criticized
steep spending cuts if you're elected.
I'm sorry?
You propose some pretty steep spending cuts if you're elected. If the economy's still growing so slowly, that's likely to further hurt growth. So how do you reconcile the spending cuts you want to do with boosting the economy and getting jobs growing again?
Well, what I describe in my plan is a series of changes to programs and elimination of programs which save more and more money over time. So we're able to get America to a balanced budget in 8 to 10 years. Not in the first year, but in 8 to 10 years. By virtue of doing those things, or taking those cuts, and at the same time taking the pro-growth steps that I'm describing, you're going to see the growth of the economy pick up at 4% or better. And you're going to get America within 4 years to about a 6% unemployment rate. And after that, I see it getting better and better.
Governor, the 2006 press conference.
Governor, your staff has criticized President Obama for taking vacations, golfing. I'm wondering if you see it as somewhat hypocritical then to take a vacation right now, especially as this rather grim economic news is coming out.
You know, I'm delighted to be able to take a vacation with my family. I think all Americans appreciate the memories that they have with their children and their grandchildren. I hope that more Americans are able to take vacations. And if I'm president of the United States, I'm going to work very hard to make sure we have good jobs for all Americans who want good jobs. And as part of a good job, the capacity to take a vacation now and then with their loved ones.
Governor, responding to a 2006 jobs report in Massachusetts, when someone was asking about a jobs report in Massachusetts, you said that there were a number of factors that were outside of your control as a way of explaining why the number was low. Why is that not the case for President Obama, that there are factors out of his control that are responsible for the low jobs report?
You know, in any jobs figures, there are going to be factors that come and go that you can't control. But the things you can control, you want to get right. In the case of President Obama, this is not a monthly statistic or even a half-yearly statistic. We've looked at now almost 4 years of policies that have not gotten America working again. We've seen that his tax policies have not encouraged investment in America. We've seen that Obamacare has made it less likely for small businesses to hire. We've seen his financial regulatory burden make it less likely for small banks to make loans to businesses that need those small bank loans to get started and to grow. His policies have not worked. And that's just not a short period of time. That's over a 4-year period of time almost. And the American people have now had a chance to see whether his policies will help America and help them and help people looking for jobs, or whether instead those policies are counterproductive when it comes to jobs. And I think the evidence is in again and again and again. Remember, the president at the beginning of his term predicted that if he was able to put in place his stimulus and his other policies, they would be able to keep unemployment below 8%. 41 months above 8% pretty much defines lack of success. It has been a failed series of policies. Their prediction was unemployment would be at 5.6% now. Instead, it's 8.2%. Millions and millions of families are struggling and suffering because the president's policies have not worked for them. And I represent a very different course. I believe a better path, one that has been demonstrated time and again over our history to encourage job growth in this country. And that's a very simple strategy. Keep the burdens down from government, encourage the dreamers to come to America, to invest in America. We do that again, you'll see America working again. Thanks so much.